Observe absolutely everything that you're feeling without discrimination, without interpretation, without judging your judgments. Every emotion and every feeling that you are feeling in your body is is a reality. Whatever created that emotion or feeling is another story, and it's not important. But what is important is that there is something there to be felt, and it's either positive or negative. Now, if it's negative, it's something we have to kind of go in and check out. Is this feeling trauma, a trigger, an egoic reaction? Um, is it some sort of pain in the body? Sometimes we can localize energy and traumas within certain places in our body, and they just kind of sit. Now, we can choose to feel what's going on, or we can kind of hide out from it. We can kind of resist it and try not to feel it, distract ourselves. But the fact remains that we wouldn't be feeling things if they weren't here. So they do need to be dealt with, because we can ignore things, but guess what? They will just remain unchanged, or just get louder. So the fact of the matter is, if we're having a feeling, a negative charge, um, a thought, it's there to be observed, because when we observe it as the witness, as our true self, as who we actually are, we begin to see it for what it is. It's when we get sucked into the feeling, we get sucked into the emotion, that we're like, we lose our identity. We're brainwashed, we're unconscious, we're autopilot. We've identified, identified. We've identified with the feeling or with the thought. And as we identify with something, we believe we are it. And if we believe we are it, we will defend it if it's under threat, as if we're defending ourselves. In its survival mode of what's not even you to protect. So, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling at any time, accept it for what it is, as it is, and know that you don't need to figure out all about it. You don't need to listen to the story or whatever drama about it is going on with you, whatever emotional reaction. None of that is real. And if any of it is real, it doesn't have any value anyways. So trying to figure it out is where we get tripped up. Trying to figure it out is where we fall off track. That's where we identify with these things. So as long as we're observing them as our higher self, we see it and we learn from it, and it teaches us. That process of just observing it and truly feeling it allows us to integrate it, to release it, to not get sucked into identification with a thought or a feeling. You know, it will dissolve in time. It can even dissolve at that time. Some things are deeper than others, and we hit certain onion layers of them. There's many more. So you don't need to figure out exactly what you're dealing with. Just know that you're always growing and learning new things and becoming more aware, and purging old stuff that you don't need. And essentially, you're always going through like a cocoon state until you hit a butterfly in another cocoon and another butterfly in another cocoon. And I think that's the ebb and flow. It's kind of the natural up and down. So observe it just for what it is, because it needs not be figured out. It can't be figured out. You know, it's the story that the Buddha told. It's when we get hit with the arrow, that's the negative charge, that's the emotion. And then we're trying to figure out all about the arrow. We're like, where did it come from? What color is it? Like, how many miles an hour was it traveling? Was there more than one people shooting it? Like, That's the story, that's the drama. That's when we identify with the arrow shooting us, instead of being like, I'm hurting, there's an arrow in me, it needs to be pulled out, felt, or released. So we don't pull the arrow out, and we get stuck in a trap of the mind. And that can go on for a very long time. Until we actually start waking up and seeing everything for what it is, seeing it's all within us, it's all ever been us, it's all ever been stories we've told ourselves. And it can be a bitter pill to swallow. Like when you're like, at the same time, it's amazing, because you can start taking matters into your own hands and not be a victim. Because you can't do shit when you're a victim. You're done. You're just a glutton for punishment. So feel it all for what it is, and you don't need to figure it out. You don't need to figure anything out, because things are set in motion already. Everything has already happened. So now we're the passenger. Once we've set our intention, it's unfolding for us, and to let it unfold, because that's how things work. Because when we're clear with our intentions, we become our intentions. When we embody the emotion we desire, we train ourselves to live in that reality of emotion. But when we live in stories of the past, and we don't even know they're stories, we live in the past, and we live in those old emotions repeating. So awakening to this fact can be a bit rough, but it's the beginning of your complete liberation. And we're all at different places along the path. And this has different relevance to different people. And maybe it doesn't have meaning to certain people. But don't worry about what else appears to be going on outside yourself. All you can do is you. That's all you're responsible for. It's all you've ever been responsible for. And until we can fill our own cup, noble is our intent. We can't help or fix anyone. We never could anyways, even when our cup's full. We can't fix or change anything that doesn't desire that for itself. And when that's made known, then we can assist. But we also need to keep our cup full, because that's what we're responsible for. And it's something I was taught as being selfish, or just learned, not necessarily taught. I think maybe a lot of people feel this way. I know I did, and I'm learning to be like okay with filling my cup and fighting against my own programming that made me feel like I needed to sacrifice it. Being a people pleaser, you know? Like awakening out of that whole thing is like, oh, oh my God, I see the light. You've only just begun to live. So yeah, just observe it as it is. Don't need to figure it out. Observe that arrow as it is and see it for what it is. And don't try to figure out where it came from. Cheers.